What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I posed a very specific question in my IG stories a few days ago. What's the best smelling men's fragrance ever? And a lot of people put one fragrance, some put multiple fragrances, and I made sure to specify, most mentioned fragrances are going to compile a list to be featured on YouTube. And here we are with that video. So some of these surprised me that they made it, and some of these were not surprising at all. I had zero influence on any of these picks. This is according to my followers that decided to type an answer on IG. So let's discuss them. Stay tuned. Starting with one that I didn't find to be surprising. Some said the one, some said the one EDT, some said the one EDP, but believe it or not, the most mentioned was the one EDT. Dolce & Gabbana, the one EDT. I was shocked to see this get mentioned more than the EDP. And for those that didn't specify, I think they were probably talking about the EDP, but I mean, it's the same scent profile. One's just more dense. This is some good stuff. A timeless classic. One of the greatest evening wear scents of all time. One of the most complimented fragrances of all time. I really was not surprised to see this get mentioned as much as it did. This isn't ranked specifically because the two that got the most mentions are actually in the middle of this list. And I'll point that out when we get to them. Trust me, those probably won't surprise you. This stuff's really good. Performance, nothing special. It's always left something to be desired for most people. That's why most people won't mess with the EDT for the most part, because they want, 8+ hours. And for some people, they get that out of the EDP. Some people still only get 5 or so hours out of the EDP. I get about 5 hours out the EDT. That's always been good for me. I strictly wear this in the evenings when I do wear it. And I don't need more than 5 hours out of an evening wear scent, to be completely honest with you, because those days of pulling all-nighters are many years behind me. And if you haven't tried this one yet, for some reason or another, you really should. It's a sweet amber tobacco fragrance. Not a ton of tobacco. It's a smooth, almost creamy type of tobacco. A lot of warm amber here. There's a beautiful sweetness. It's not crazy complex. It's not super high quality. It just flat out smells really, really good. And I completely agree with this pick. Definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Dolce & Gabbana, the one. Next, I was a little surprised that this got mentioned as much as it did. I agree that it's one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. I was just surprised that this got more mentions than some others. There's some really great fragrances that didn't get mentioned enough to make it in this video. Some that you may be surprised didn't make it, but fragrances like Prada L'Homme absolutely got more than enough mentions to make this video. And hey, if you like soapy, if you like iris, it's a must. Still one of my happy fragrances. Though I don't wear it as much as I should, for as much as I enjoy this fragrance. I wear the flankers more. I wear the intense in the cooler months. Really ideal time for this is upcoming with spring weather. It's a gorgeous fragrance for the office. It's the best soapy iris ever made, in my opinion, because it is more of a fantasy iris note. It's more soapy than waxy. It's definitely not the earthy tone of a natural Florentine iris. It blends so well with the neroli and the spices and stuff that's in here. It makes for such a gorgeous scent. It's still floating in the air in front of me. I still smell it. It performs very well. It's not what I would consider a beastly fragrance, but it's definitely not an average performer on my skin. This stuff goes in the 8-hour territory of longevity on my skin, and it's surprisingly pronounced. This stuff projects a lot heavier than I think it gets credit for, at least on my skin. It projects pretty heavy. Not a room filler by any means, but much more than you would expect it to, at least for the credit I've seen it get over the years. For me, it surprised me the first couple of times I wore it with how overwhelming, because I sprayed it heavier than I should have apparently the first couple of times, and it was kind of overwhelming me for a few hours. But luckily, it's one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. is the original Prada. Another one that I don't want to say I'm surprised is on here. I felt like this was going to get some mentions, don't get me wrong, but I didn't think we'd get enough to crack the video, to crack in the top 10, with Mercedes-Benz Club Black. It definitely got more than enough. Probably, my opinion of course, probably the best affordable designer vanilla out there. And when I say affordable, the price fluctuates. Sometimes you can find it in the 40s, sometimes it's in the 50s. Some people may not deem that affordable. When you compare it to luxury fragrances, it's cheap. Okay? Some people only deem affordable under $30. It's all perspective for what you deem affordable. I'm not going to say it's a cheap fragrance, but it's definitely a more affordable fragrance. It performs great. It's got enough bright freshness to wear during the day in cooler weather, but it's definitely got that gorgeous, smoky vanilla kind of just sex appeal to it for dinner dates, evening wear. That's where this shines the most, in my opinion. And it pops off the skin. The ambroxan that's in here really helps it pop off the skin. This stuff performs really well. You can choke yourself out if you spray this one heavy. Mindful of the sprays. Depends on your situation. But, I mean, if you can find this one in the $50 range, my personal opinion, it's the best affordable vanilla designer scent. Designer, because there's, you know, niche vanilla scents that blow this out the water. But for a designer standpoint, for a designer fragrance that you can get in the $50 range, there's none better in my opinion. So I'm not surprised it got mentioned a bunch of times. I am surprised it got mentioned so much that it's in the video. I hope that makes sense. But hey, can't help but, you know, agree with the votes. One of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Mercedes-Benz Club Black. So when it comes to this one, if you're surprised to see this in the video, you've been living under a rock or you're new to the hobby. One of the two. This is one of the most hyped designer fragrances in YouTube fragrance video history. Hands down. This definitely got one of the most amount of mentions with Spicebomb Extreme. I'm sure none of you are surprised to see this. Look, the hype is real on this one. It always has been. And according to materials I've seen online, things people have said, supposedly they're phasing this one out, which is surprising, first of all, and disappointing, second of all, because, like I said, the hype's always been justified on this one. It's a gorgeous, spicy vanilla fragrance. It's got a little bit of a tobacco in the background, but it's more about spices and vanilla, and not overwhelming vanilla. I wouldn't call it redundant to fragrances like Mercedes-Benz Club Black, because this is so much more peppery spiced, true to the Spicebomb name and DNA. It's a beast in performance. This is one of the best performing fragrances that made this video topic. And yeah, if it is being phased out, it's very sad. I can't confirm nor deny, but I've been seeing press releases where it's both night visions, infrared, and the original are kind of the only four in the lineup I've been seeing on press release materials and stuff like that, and promo materials. And then when I went to Sephora the other day, that's the only four they had. They did not have any testers, nothing of Spicebomb Extreme. So I've seen a lot to tell me that that indeed is the truth, but like I said, I haven't spoken to anyone that represents Viktor and Rolf to confirm it. But it's sad if so. It looks like that might be the case. So get yourself a bottle if you can. You're going to pay around retail for this one, whether you buy it straight up for retail or a couple dollars cheaper than retail, or maybe even a couple dollars over retail. It's always been worth the price point. Around $100 is what you're going to pay for a 100 ml. And it fetches the money. It deserves the money. It's worth the money. It's one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Hell, that's why it's in this video. Get your hands on it while you still can. Viktor and Rolf Spicebomb Extreme. So these next two got the most mentions. I knew this was going to happen for this one. The other one, I figured would get mentioned for sure. It's beloved. But I didn't think it would be the second most mentioned behind this one. This did not surprise me. It got the most mentions. Aqua De Joe. Giorgio Armani, the original. That just goes to show that people still love this fragrance. Even though I think it's time to take a back seat, because all of the flankers are better, in my opinion. Even the new EDP. is a cross of this and Profondo. It's better in my opinion, but there's no denying how good it smells. My wife still loves when I wear this one. I kind of strictly wear it out the shower, just hanging out around the house. I've always enjoyed it, but my wife really loves how this one smells. So I kind of wear it when we're just lounging around the house for her specifically. I have another bottle of it. This isn't my only bottle. I have a 40 ml bottle that's still sealed. Or 50 ml bottle. I'm sorry, 50 ml bottle. And, I got plenty of Aqua De Joe. And it's not something I wear all the time, but I do go back to it here and there. But it's hard to deny it's the highest selling men's fragrance of all time. It's the most popular, not counting sales, because once people got on this fragrance, they've rebought it and rebought it and rebought it for years now. This is signature scent for 20 years for a lot of people. Almost 20 years anyways. One of my childhood best friends, this is still his signature scent. It just works. Does it perform great? No. Does it pull compliments? Abso-freaking-lutely. Does it also have negative implications for certain women because it may be an ex-boyfriend from a bad relationship or reminds them of their dad or their uncle? Yeah, you take the good with the bad with a fragrance this popular for sure. That kind of stuff does happen too. So you got to know your situation and who you're with, I guess, to wear this fragrance these days. But definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Was not surprised that it got the most mentions, because it wasn't a voting thing. It was you tell me what you think's the best ever. And whatever gets mentioned the most is in the video. And if it was ranked, this would be number one. So, dated, never ever will it be, in my opinion. And this kind of stuff proves it. One of the best smelling men's fragrances of all time, Aqua De Joe. Now, like I was saying, this got the second most mentions. I'm not surprised it got mentioned a lot. I figured it would make this video. I just didn't know it would run a close race with Aqua De Joe. I just had no idea with Dioram Parfum. I mean, this is a masterpiece. I couldn't agree more that this is one of the best smelling men's fragrances of all time. This stuff is so good. It checks every box. Uniqueness, performance, as far as longevity, sillage, which is your trail and your scent bubble, projection, how it pushes off of the skin. Oh, God. It's such a good fragrance. It's a leather fragrance that features a well-pronounced fantasy iris note, that lipstick, makeup bag, iris smell that the Dioram line has traditionally been known for. Not so much anymore because they've kind of changed the route of the line, but historically, this is a fantasy iris line. Lipstick smell is what it's always been associated to. And here you get a little touch of oud. There's a hit of some deep rose. There's some creamy sandalwood as it dries down. It lightens up. But there's a rough, rugged, pretty animalic leather in the early life of this fragrance that does soften up as time progresses. But it's actually classified as a leather fragrance. This stuff is remarkably good. This is stunning. I'm so glad to have this fragrance in my collection. And this is the older style 75 ml. I have two of these bottles. I have one that's still sealed. Will I ever open it? I don't know. But just in case, I got it. Because I only wear this one in the winter. Let me spray it again. It's upscale. It's classy. Not so much that you got to wear it with a suit and tie to go nice with a nice shirt and jacket combo. This is some really good stuff. It's a little rough and tumble because of the animalic leather. It's not as dressy as Intense and Dioram Original, in my opinion. Those are a bit more classy and elegant, whereas this is a little bit more edgy. The edgy take of that DNA. But I agree. For all of you that mentioned this one, I'm right there with you. Definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances of all time. Dioram Parfum. A surprising pick. I was surprised how many people mentioned this fragrance. I do agree, because I love the original. And this is an enriched version of the original. This is a true Intense flanker. Unlike a lot of companies that'll just change some things about it and it smells kind of like the original and it's more intense, but it's not quite the same smell. Not the case here with Boss Bottled Intense Eau de Parfum. It is a richer concentration. It is a more intense smell of the original Boss No. 6. They did it right with this one. Discontinued now. Sadly, this is more rich warm apple pie than sharp warm apple pie like the original. The original was more volatile up top. You got a lot more crisp edge out of the apple that's in there, whereas it's more about warm cinnamon here. It's a lot more robust and a bit more of a thick smell, if you will. Performance is great. 8+ hours easily. It does project pretty well. This works great in evening situations. This is a great daily wear signature scent in cooler months. Not built well for heat. That's where the EDT, the original, comes in a bit better. And even then, that wasn't the greatest thing for the summer, but it's definitely a much better pick than this. But spring, fall, and winter, the stuff shines. Very sad that they got rid of it because this was the best Boss bottled fragrance they ever put out. My opinion, of course. And then, hell, it got mentioned a bunch for a topic of best smelling men's fragrance ever. I mean, that should tell you a lot right there. This is beloved. It can still be found sometimes in different places in the $40 to $50 range. It's still worth it at that price point. Yeah, it's not in the 30s like it used to be, but still worth it around 50 bucks. Price per ml has gone up, but the performance and the enjoyment of the fragrance has not changed. So I was surprised by this pick, but I absolutely agree with everybody. One of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Boss Bottled Intense EDP. One that's hard to argue with. You know, this is kind of that, if you like the easygoing fragrances and compliments are important to you, this is kind of the one niche fragrance that everybody kind of goes after, really and truly, if compliments are that important to you. And there's a lot of guys out there that compliments are super important. Roger Parfum's Elysium Parfum Cologne, specifically stated, was the Parfum Cologne. Over and over again. Not once did, I think maybe one time, one mention of the Parfum Pour Homme, just one. And for the few answers that just said Elysium, I'm not sure which one they meant. I'm assuming this one. Because this is, I mean, it's still expensive, but it's more affordable than the Parfum. You know, this is retail of $295, discounters low to mid 200s, whereas the Parfum Pour Homme for 50 ml is like 400 and some change, you know. So I assumed this was the case for the ones that didn't specify which one, but there was a lot that said PC or Parfum Cologne or Elysium Cologne. So I'm not surprised by this. Man, citruses, fruity freshness, a little metallic, a touch of aquatic nature, some light woods. There's a fresh green feel in the heart of this fragrance. It is a beautiful fragrance. There's no denying how great this stuff smells. You know, this is another one where I completely agree. I'm not biased completely to the Parfum Pour Homme. I do think the Parfum Pour Homme is a better fragrance, but I understand why this is more popular. It's more affordable, and it's closer to what people that like mass appealing designer fragrances, the appeal to those. This has a similar appeal, just a little bit higher quality standard. Overall, it's like taking your favorite, you know, highly complimented blue fragrance and making a niche version of it is kind of the simplest way you can look at Elysium. It pulls in compliments. It really does. That's why I said for guys that like these high compliment factor fragrances, because that's really important to them. This is usually that one niche fragrance that is sought after for them. This will be that one in their collection. This is their secret weapon in certain situations. I've seen many different posts on social media about this fragrance over the years, and that's kind of how it's viewed by a lot of guys. And I'm not knocking it. I understand it. I get it. It's really good stuff. It's really good stuff. It's hard to argue with. It's an olfactive experience worth having. It's not the most crazy unique fragrance in history, but it's one of the most pleasing to the nose in history. So I agree. Definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever is Roger Parfum's Elysium Parfum Cologne. These last two, I'm not surprised. I saved these two for last because I fully anticipated them to be there, and both of them made it in by one mention each over other fragrances that some of you may have thought were going to make this video. I'm not even going to throw those names out there. I'll just leave your mind to wander, and you can mention in the comments what you think the best smelling men's fragrance ever is or fragrance is. That is totally up to you. That's a nice little additive for the comment section for you guys, I guess. But Parfums de Marley Layton. I was not surprised for this to make it. I anticipated this to make it. It barely made it, but it made it nonetheless. This stuff is special. Whew, man. And the one thing I can never not smell, double negative, sorry. Ever since it was put in my head that it smells like Vicks Vapo Rub in the top, I smell Vicks Vapo Rub every time I smell this fragrance. The way the geranium works here with the cardamom, it does have this mentholic Vicks Vapo Rub, Vicks 44 kind of smell going. It's not a turn off for me. I really, really dig it. It's enjoyable. It gets a lot more spicy vanilla going. There's a crisp apple that starts to come in once that mentholic vibe starts to tone down a little bit. It performs great. It pulls compliments. It's unique. It's an original DNA. It's copied to death at this stage. Every clone house has a version of Layton, big or small. But honestly, none of them are as good as the original. There's a lot of really good clones out there of Layton. Don't get me wrong. I have a few of them for sure. I have several of them, honestly. I still reach for the original over the clones. The original's just better. And I'm not surprised this made the list. Like I said, it's definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. And the originality is difficult these days because there's so many fragrances that have been produced over the years. And on a year-to-year basis, there's so many fragrances that come out from a luxury standpoint and from a designer market standpoint as well. So to have something so original, so beloved, and so well accepted by the community and by the masses as a whole, that says something in my opinion. Because until people started making clones of it, this is a pretty damn unique fragrance. Nothing else smells like Layton, except for Layton. It was the first of this scent profile. And it's definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. So I'm glad it made it in. I would have been disappointed had it not got mentioned enough because I definitely personally think this is one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever made. Parfums de Marley Layton. Lastly, just like with Layton, it made it in by one mention. It's a flanker to a fragrance that's in here already. So you may know where I'm going. It got the fragrance that got the most votes. It's best flanker in my opinion, Aqua De Joe Profumo. I was not surprised that this made it in too. Because again, I agree. I anticipated Aqua De Joe to make it because it's so iconic and it smells so good, but this is better. My opinion, of course, this is better. It's more versatile. It dresses up better. It works better across all seasons. This is a better signature scent version of the DNA. It's darker. It's slightly more mature. And when I say mature, I don't mean old. I mean, it smells like you can dress it up. You know what I mean? It's not just a laid back aquatic fragrance that's built for warm weather and t-shirts, which is technically what Aqua De Joe is about, though people use it for so many things, even as a signature scent mostly. This does that job better, and it performs way better. This is 8, 10, 12 hours depending on your skin. This bottle I've had for some time. I love this stuff. I don't wear it as much as I used to because I have so many fragrances at this stage, but when I go back to it, I fall in love with it all over again. So I'm not surprised this made it. Another one, just like with Layton, if this would not have made it in, I'd have been a little bit disappointed. But at the end of the day, I had no vote, no dog in the fight, if you will. I was asking my followers on IG, and I had hundreds of answers. I was thankful that so many participated. It was kind of a pain to sort through all of it, but it was something different to do for the channel and with my IG followers. So thank you to everybody that did jump in on that, and thank you to everybody that mentioned this enough for it to make the video because it's deserving. It's deserving. It's one of the best smelling fragrances ever. This, if they were to eradicate and eliminate and remove every other fragrance in the line and just keep this one, I don't think that many people would be upset. Because this one's that damn good. Definitely one of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Aqua De Joe Profumo. Well, That's the 10 that got the most mentions. Once again, to all of you that follow me on Instagram that participated in this, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. For those of you that watch this video, did you like this style format where it's not up to me? I'm just giving you my thoughts after it's picked. Would you like to see more content like this? This was different for the channel, not something I do all the time. And it was interesting. It was interesting. I mean, even if fragrances I don't have bottles of would have been, mentioned the most, we'd have just put it on screen and talked about it and discussed some of the points, whether I did or did not smell it or what I've heard about it. There's many ways to go about this. This was definitely a fun style and topic for me. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. How many of these in this video do you have or have you smelled before? And what do you think about them? Do you agree that they're some of the best smelling men's fragrances ever? Hands down, end of story. Let me know down in the comments. And what do you believe should have made it? What would your vote or mention if you would have been a part of this on IG, if you, for some reason or another, weren't able to? What would you have said? Definitely sound off in the comments. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these 10 and you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later because, well, you might end up thanking IG later. These are definitely 10 of the best smelling men's fragrances ever. Have a good one, guys.